Welcome to the Glamping Guy Podcast, episode 13.
But here's the most important thing about this, because it's real estate investment, because it's it's a long-term benefit for you and your family, right? Is you are investing in something that, you own a piece of dirt and you've improved that dirt. You can't lose. You can't lose.
Right.
Work smart, but do something. Don't sit on the couch.
Welcome to the Glamping Guy Podcast. I'm Chris Jube, your guide to the glamping lifestyle, the glamping hosting lifestyle, where we explore the journeys, challenges, and triumphs of glamping entrepreneurs from all walks of life. Today, I'm joined by Tom Petry, a passionate outdoorsman, educator, and entrepreneur who's making waves in the glamping world with his glamping business, the Wild Pines of Ohio. In this episode, Tom shares his inspiring story of combining his experience in the outdoor industry, where he runs a hunting TV show and educational company, with his new venture into glamping. We discuss his journey from purchasing a recreational property to building a thriving glamping operation featuring safari tents and RV units. Tom actually was a student of mine it hasn't even been a whole year, and he already has that RV running as well as 2 safari tents and a plan to have up to 5 units this next year, only his second year. Whether you're dreaming of starting your own glamping operation or just love hearing stories of outdoor innovation, Tom's journey is packed with practical advice and motivation. So here's the interview I had with Tom Petry of Wild Pines of Ohio. Welcome to the podcast, Tom. How are you?
I'm great, Chris. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Well, you are the third student that I'm interviewing. Okay, so you have actually taken my course, and I've interviewed some of my students, and you're probably the rock star student, honestly, because you launched during class.
I'm the crazy student.
But I know you very well. We actually on our phones together. We text each other and stuff like that. We hooked up at the American Glamping Association this last year. So I consider you my friend and a comrade in this whole glamping world. But for the rest of the audience, how about you tell me who you are, especially your business? All these. If you're watching on YouTube, you see all these antlers and mounts in the background.
Yeah,
I want you to explain to me who you are and the things you got going.
Sure. Well, try and give the best elevator version of it I can, right? Because I'm a talker. But essentially, I'm in the outdoor industry. I call it my day job is in the hunting industry. So I have a TV show in the hunting space, as well as an education company. So I teach outdoor video production. So, field production, video and photo work, as well as the post-production end of it, the editing of outdoor content. So that has been a huge evolution in that, as you can imagine, I've been doing this now, outdoor television, we could argue it's been almost 30 years now, professionally with my own company, nearly 15 of that. But that's my day job, and kind of how this whole glamping thing came about was through the outdoor industry, was through the hunting industry, because I'm, I work with a lot of different companies on a sponsorship basis or a partnership basis. One of those companies happens to be Montana Canvas, who is out of the Montana area. And I started working with them in the hunting space. They supported our show and provided us tents, and we were creating content for them. And like you and I, you start doing business with somebody, you become friendly, and next thing you know, become friends. So become pretty close with the Kurtz over there at Montana Canvas. And it was actually just general conversation. I think we were sitting at a trade show one day, a hunting trade show. And he's like, "Man, you're in Ohio. You should look into getting into the glamping space, And obviously, they started doing it. Selling to several facilities throughout the country, and started to do more and more business in the glamping space. He's like, "You really should look into it." So it's one of those deals, Chris. Like at first, I'm like, "Yeah, no, that sounds interesting." But the more and more my wife and I looked into it, the more and more we looked at the lack of it in the Ohio, the Midwest area. It's more of a Western thing kind of initially here. My wife and I I don't know. Like I said, call us crazy, I guess. I don't know. We were like, that sounds fun. We're entertainers.
Oh, it's a
by
good
heart.
kind of crazy. This is a great kind of crazy. Yeah.
I guess it is. It is. Yes. So, I mean, to fast forward, we ended up in more conversations with Montana Canvas about it, started looking into some things, and we can get into where I went from there later. But my point is who I am and what I am is really in the hunting space primarily. But this was just a perfect little marriage, with working with Montana Canvas, and it fits right up our alley. So I'm still doing the hunting thing very much so, but the glamping thing has become much more a part of our lives at this point. Still on the front end of it, and happy to talk about all that in detail. But it's been quite a little journey here in the last year. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I think that's why we hit it off so well, because I started off with a hunting background too. I just threw my hunting tent up in the backyard and then started renting it on Airbnb, and it worked. And that's and I shared with you before I pressed record that I was duck hunting on my property yesterday morning and all that. So it's kind of like hunting is a big factor. There's actually such a diverse group, this whole glamping world, isn't it? Because you really do have like kind of these redneck hardcore, roll up your sleeves kind of hard workers. Well, not that the other side's not hard workers, but kind of like the hunters.
What you mean?
We're putting up tents and we're living outdoors. We love that outdoors. Sure. And then there's really the far left side too, that are kind of the tree hugging types, you might say, and into sustainability and things like that. I like to say conservation more than sustainability, as far as my political bent. But utilizing our land, living off the fruit of the land is like I like
enjoying
to say.
It. Yeah, and I've learned that too, real quickly in just our year of doing it. The individuals will have gravitate from, we're in Central Ohio, so we get a lot of people, believe it or not, from Detroit, Michigan, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Cleveland and Cincinnati, Ohio, coming out of the city. These are people that ask me, will the deer bother them while they're staying with us? They just don't know. Like, will they hurt us? Will they eat our food? Like, no, deer aren't going to eat your cheeseburger, But then again, on the flip side of that, and being in the hunting space, our glamping facility is right next to a bunch of state land. So it was kind of cool. This fall, I started seeing hunters come in and rent our place. And now I'm right on even playing field. Like we're chatting about deer and this and that in the area. So you're right. Very diverse, but all in a good way. Like we made a lot of really great connections in the last year.
Yeah. So you actually rented out to some hunters that stayed in your property?
We did this fall.
Nice. Yeah.
And I didn't even do that on purpose. That just happened, right? Because we're bordering like
they need lodging. So a lot of hunters
a
hotel room or something. Why not go
rather than a hotel room? They got to drive 30 minutes. They're like, sweet, I can stay across the road in the woods and right there and have a great facility. Yeah. Matter of fact, we had one guy. This was actually kind of cool. We booked one of the locations for a week during Thanksgiving week. We're like, it must be somebody visiting family or, whatever. And they just opted to stay. No, this was a dude going hunting for the week, and his wife tagged along with him. They had Thanksgiving at our place, and she just chilled out, read books. There was a hot tub at that one. So she'd sit in the hot tub, do her thing. He'd go hunting all day. They had Thanksgiving dinner so it was, I'm like, that's awesome, really.
Because the hunting season probably was over Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, it just goes right through.
That reminds me, I did that a long time ago, before my glamping world, and I went up to Nebraska, and with my parents, so the grandparents to my kids, we did a hunting trip over Christmas week, and so like the day after Christmas we went hunting, and the renters thought the same thing. We were doing a Christmas trip.
You're
like,
doing
no, we're actually hunting. So, like, oh, okay. And but anyway, that does. It's interesting how the markets of what we. Well, I hope this inspires actually my list, the people who watch the podcast, because whatever your land produces, it can be turned into a glamping trip. You're hunting land. Well, you didn't even know it was a hunting land, but now it is turning into that. You're meeting a need for people to actually hunt. My property isn't so much well, it is a hunting land. Maybe I should get on this piece of this action.
Well, hey, and listen, make no mistake, these people aren't hunting even on my ground. It's not even that.
They're just lodging on your ground.
Neighboring public land. They're just lodging there. So it's playing off of the hunting seasons, which now, knowing what I know now, next year I'll do even more like promotion and make it known, make the hunting side of it known, because we booked it without even trying for that.
Yeah. So, come to think of it, I do that with Pike National Forest. It's the border of it is 1 mile away. And so it's literally, you can almost walk to the trailhead. And so hiking is something that I integrate with my glamping operation too. Sure. So I hope that's inspiring to people. Okay, let's talk about your specific. Do you have a name for your glamping operation, or
we do?
Let's go back. You started off with an RV. Let's start there and what you and Melissa were doing on your property.
Yeah, sure.
Time for a glamping glamercial. Glamping is the sexiest asset class in real estate, blowing traditional real estate out of the water. If you are a landowner or a potential landowner or an investor who wants to get into the world of glamping, I invite you to my 4-video course, Easy Entry to a Glamping Business. I'm Chris Jube, the glamping guy. You may have seen my videos online. And I attest that while traditional real estate investing boasts maybe 10 or 20% returns, glamping typically returns 50%. In my 5 years of hosting a modest glamping operation, I have grown 100 times my first year's earnings. I will show you how you can do the same. So go to glampingguy.com/easy and get registered today to learn easy entry to a glamping business.
Sure. Well, so, it was one of those deals when we purchased the property. It had already had a concrete pad on it where the previous owner had just parked his camper. It was a recreational piece for him and his family, summertime type deal, nothing crazy. So with that in place, and I already had water and sewer and electric to just that one location, right? Just the pad. So that was really appealing to me when I first bought the place. But yeah, my wife and I, we do have a daughter and some dogs and stuff. So we had a pretty significant sized camper. We had a big bunk room, 32-foot camper that sleeps, they all say they sleep like 15 people, right? Not literally, but you know what I'm saying? It slept 9, but we advertised that it sleeps 6. And we said, let's just park that on the pad. Let's plug it in and let's just see what we can do. And I'll tell you what I did is, because when I first bought the property, it was the middle of winter. So I plopped up one of the inflatable hot tubs and thought, well, maybe that'll be the appeal. We have no presence on Airbnb. We're brand new hosts on Airbnb. I have no idea what we're doing. Let's just plop this thing on here. Being a photographer and things of that nature, I knew I could create what we needed to create there. But we just parked our camper, got it on Airbnb, fought our way through that, promoted the hot tub deal. And I mean, instantly, almost, within the first few weeks, we had our first booking. And we're thinking, okay. Well, then it went on to February. We booked every single weekend in February. And this is a camper with a hot tub, I mean, it's not really much else other than that. So that's how we started off, like, through those first few months of winter owning it. We figured we're not going to do anything.
This was February 2024.
Yeah. Yeah. We bought it January 23. Yeah. So we bought it a year ago. Or no, December we bought it. So almost to the day a year ago is when I bought it.
Yeah, you move fast. That's actually pretty quick turnaround. Yeah, people tend to think about this a lot more, but you just
I'm a doer, not a thinker. Yeah. I feel like if you think too much about something, you're going to get yourself in analysis paralysis, and you're never going to get anything done. So I'm more of a do, mess things up, figure it out on the fly kind of deal.
Yes.
And I'll be honest though, that winter, other than troubleshooting some issues we had with freeze ups and things, because obviously you're hard of winter, even Ohio, it gets cold. Yep. So we did have some issues there, but I worked through it. A heated water line, heated hose, in other words, to get to the camper, and just some other tricks that I incorporated. So yeah, I mean, we rented it like, I think it was like 40% of the available weekends throughout the heart of the winter. We were booked, which was incredible. And then of course we got to March and we're thinking all of a sudden it like dove off the rentals. We're like, oh no, what happened? But again, those are just, March is an awkward month. I don't know what you see, but for us, March is an awkward month because it's not quite nice enough yet. It's not the heart of the winter. People are just starting to do things around the house but that was it, man. I mean, but I didn't buy it to put up a camper only, obviously I bought it for the tents. So,
Yes.
so that's
that
what
was about
next.
And you took my class in April. Wasn't it April, or were you one of my first students? I can't remember.
I was the first. I was in the
you
first.
You were the first. So you're the first in the first group. So I
was in the very first group.
Like January, February, March is when I taught 8 weeks to launch. You were a member of that. So you had the RV, because I remember like right at the tail end of that 8 weeks to launch, you launched your tent.
My tent, the first tent. Yeah, exactly.
And it's an awesome looking tent.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. So so that was my whole plan, was to put that RV on there, and then as that weather allowed me to in the middle of winter, which was like March, as soon as that weather allowed me to get in there, dig footings so I can get that deck built, I did. And I just went after it. Again, for my other business, that's kind of the slow time. So I was fortunate to just have the time to be able to get up there. I build everything myself and do all that myself. So I say that I drag my 79-year-old dad along with me to help, and he does great. But we built that first tent while we were still taking your class, and I launched it. I think it was right after your class finished. We launched it because then I did that video reveal for you. Remember?
Yeah.
After the graduation, all that, I did that video.
Great video. Yeah, you panned out and you see the tent and the forest and stuff. And it's a nice safari tent. It's not a pop-up ugly thing. No. It got a nice deck and sitting room and beautiful bed.
Yep.
And just, you really pimped it out there, Tom. Right. It's really nice.
I did. Thank you. I said from beginning, I'm not going to go just pop up 5 tents and then figure the specifics out later. I said, my wife and I both said, we're going to do one, we're going to get it done right. We're going to launch it. We're going to navigate Airbnb and figure all that out. And then once we do, we'll build and launch 2 and 3 and so on and so forth. So, so that's what that tent was for me. I mean, and it's, here's a fun fact. A year later, that tent is still our number 1.
Really? Is it outperforming the RV? It's outperforming.
Really? It's close. It's close. Okay. It's close to the RV. I have not put a hot tub at that location, which is happening this year.
Oh, really? So you do not have a hot tub in the tent, or
not that tent? Outside? No, not that tent. Just the RV. And I swear that, and you'll probably be able to attest to this, that's sometimes why they choose the RV over one of the tents. So I'm just going to put
they do. That's the number one reason. In fact, have you seen my recent Sunshine development and upgrade? I just put a hot tub in the back, and not a cheap one, but I bought a nice hard.
Did you? Oh yeah, I did see that. Tub.
Yes, it's the pictures really pop, and my Sunshine tent is booked out. I mean, it just totally filled up. Once I put that there, when it was just, and I have 2 safari tents very similar to yours that are on platforms, and they got the decks and everything like that. One of them has a hot tub, the other one just has a water trough. And we got to get a hot tub in the next one, because it's night and day. The 2 calendars, the Sunshine is filling up, Stargazer just isn't. And so I got to get I'm with you. I got to get a hot tub in that tent. It doesn't have to be inside the tent. It could be right outside the tent. I've got a back room for Sunshine. The front deck has enough room for it. I used to do the inflatable hot tubs, and those they became more of a hassle than a help. This time I just bit the bullet and spent a few $1,000 on a nice hot tub, and boy, it has made a world of difference. So
they do, and that first tent is laid out just right for it. I wouldn't put it in either. I have, our land sits in these, which is unique to Ohio, but it's up in this pine tree grove, which is really, really cool and different for Ohioans. Or surrounding areas, you don't get a lot of that, but my tent locations sit in these pretty tight little pine cove pockets, and it's pretty neat. So I'm going to put mine detached from the tent, but with some privacy fencing and in and amongst the pines. I got some patio lights, out and about over top of everything there. So I think it's really going to be nice. It's going to photograph nice, and it's going to do nothing but, I know any gaps that tent had this year, I'm pretty confident it won't be there next year,
Oh, nice. So, well, that's great. I look forward to seeing that. And now you said tent. Did you stick up a second tent?
Oh yeah. Yep. I've got a second tent up and a third tent going up. Yeah.
Oh, really? Yep. Okay. So you've got the RVs that's still going.
Yep.
And that's your number one rental.
Essentially. Yeah.
And then you have 2 safari tents. Are you doing a third safari tent?
Yep. Got the third safari tent already started and going up. Yep. So that'll be launched, by the spring, and then probably at that spring, launch of April-ish, I'll be hopefully be putting up our 4th. So, but yeah, and the second one is a little bit bigger. So my first tent is a 12 by 14 tent with a 6-foot deck. And then our second one is actually a 14 by 20 with a 6-foot deck.
Oh, a big one. Yeah.
So yeah, more of a family size, sleeps 4 comfortably, still has the queen bed, but then has a futon and an air mattress and just some other things for 2 additional guests. But same deal. I do propane fire pits at all my units, patio lights, everything's got electricity, and we got, coffee. I mean, the deal, kitchen tables, kitchenette. The second tent is, I'm going to say, the second tent is, if you stood back and looked at it, it's almost more appealing than the first for what it is, in that it has a separate area in the front where it's just this really cool, big, huge pine trees. And one is actually, I call it bent pine, is what I ended up calling it, because the one pine tree comes up and just takes like a 90-degree turn and then straight up. So we hung a hammock on that. We called it bent pine. Yeah, but
it's funny. I call one of my units shady pine, because it's just this pine tree that's all kind of not like not bent, but kind of like, it just looks like a piece of pine. So I called it. Right. I call it shady pine. It's like, that's a shady looking pine, and boom, that's a
shady looking pine. Well, I think that's fun. Cool. Yeah, naming your. I mean, you shouldn't. I don't know. I enjoy letting them name themselves. That's one of the things I've been enjoying, Yep. Let it be. It's going to take on its own name, and you're going to figure it out. And that's how we've treated every one of ours so far. But yeah.
Hey, guests kind of the guests dig it. They're like, we stayed in Big Red, or we stayed in Sunshine, or Target. They start naming it themselves. Or Braveheart. I've got Braveheart down there because it's just a tent with 2 different colors to it. We ended up selling it, but now I got to rename it because it's not Braveheart anymore. Anyway, so yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
It's pretty neat. We've had a fair amount of people. Now you know how it is. You get 10 people that say it. Maybe there'll be 2 that do it. But we had a lot of people this summer say, it was so cool, and we got a chance to peek over at Pine Cove or Bent Pine or whatever, and they're like, "We're coming back next summer."
Start comparing the different venues.
Yeah, they do. They're like, "We're going to stay in Bent Pine next time, and I'll bring my cousin to stay in Pine Cove." And so it'll be interesting to see who of those people actually follow through and book this year, and do bring their friends or family rather to book out the whole property, and it'll be neat. I'm excited for year 2. I think for year 1, starting taking your class, getting the units kicked off, and then I'll tell you, one of the biggest hurdles for me, for what I found, had nothing to do with building, had nothing to do with managing. It was all about learning Airbnb, and I still am.
Really? Okay.
But man, if you had a way to integrate that into your class, because I say that because I started out with nothing on there, and to work your way to Superhost and to navigate some of the small issues and just what makes things pop to the top and those kind of things. And I've watched a lot of tutorials, and I feel I still have more to learn, obviously, but I feel like I finally get it. But that took a year, of working through all that.
Yeah,
That's
is.
what I found anyway.
And Airbnb keeps changing, so I feel like I'm learning too all the time. And so they keep changing their algorithm and the way they do it. So it's hard to kind of nail them down.
That's a good point.
This is the way it's done.
Yeah.
And are you solely on Airbnb, or do you do anyone else?
No, we do Hip Camp as well. So
Okay.
Airbnb and Hip Camp. I'm on the fence on VRBO. I might do that as well. I've heard some pretty positive things lately about that, but I'm just not sure. I don't know, what your opinions are on that. Good. We got a clean screen now.
Yeah, I
Good.
got my camera actually. Yeah, I do verbal also. I get very little business from it. I
Okay.
did booking.com for a while, and I found them to be very chaotic and
Yeah.
almost underhandish. So I
Yeah.
dropped them.
Yeah.
Airbnb is the grill in the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Hip Camp I do also, although I have to, with my PMS, I have to kind of manually, there's some manual steps I have to do.
Okay.
That make it a little annoying, but I like Hip Camp's atmosphere. I like their brand.
I do too.
Yep. Yeah. I like my hip campers.
I do too. We've had quite a few from Hip Camp, and I'll tell you, one of the things I really like about Hip Camp is how they let you have a property, and then you have your sites under your property.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I really like that.
Versus individual, it's like Airbnb sees each unit as a property.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't scale very well.
It doesn't, and that's why through our website we actually link people to the Airbnb link, because that's our umbrella, right? Our website is the one that can get you to each individual site. There's nothing really Airbnb link that I can send or promote that says, hey, here's what we offer, because it would draw them to one place. So that's a little bit of a downer, but again, we lead them to the website, and then from there they can find it. So my wife just did a trade show recently, a local trade show that went really well. We did a radio show locally. I just went on, was it 2 weeks ago, and did a local radio show and gave away a free night stay, and they promoted us and did all that. So that was kind of neat. And I think all those little things, right? They all make a difference. They all help. So we're trying to do whatever we can, man.
Yeah, I do the I'm going to be in the 4th of July parade next year. And,
are you?
And I've done the 4th of July booth in the streets, the street booths, and just Chamber of Commerce speeches and things like that. Because we are the cool people in the Chamber of Commerce, honestly. I encourage glampers to get involved in the local business community. Absolutely. And that comes in really handy. Have you gotten any kind of neighborhood opposition in you? Are you up far enough in the country, or your neighbors?
No. No. The part of the country we're at, I mean, honestly, where we bought that ground, it's all, recreational properties for people, whether they live in the city and they own this piece or have a little cabin on it. There are some, but very few, that rent their cabins out. We're the only true glamping. That's not true anymore. There was another one that popped up. Ours is better, but
competition. You're rolling in.
Ours is way more appealing, but no. But you're going to have that. I actually had the neighboring property to us went up for sale recently, and it's vacant land, unbroken ground. There's no well, no septic, no nothing. I walked it and considered it, but it is not appealing for what we would want to do with it. Not without a lot of dirt work. Right. It's kind of just a cliff. And it's coincidentally, I spoke to the owners just recently because I saw someone trespassing, or at least I thought they were. So I hit them up and they're like, yeah, no, they don't belong there. But my point is, she goes, well, we have somebody looking into it that wants to put in some Airbnbs. I don't know if that was a business, on her point, trying to nudge me to,
nudge you to get in
to make an offer on it. But
if it's raw land, raw land is, I advise people to, think twice, because raw land is usually cheap. It's much cheaper, but boy, the infrastructure you have to put in there is costly.
And especially the way this land lays, it's very steep. There's almost
you're adjacent to it though. You can expand your glamping operation into that.
I could.
Yeah.
I could.
How big is the property?
It's just another 5 acres.
Okay.
Which would double what we have. But I know that I couldn't do, without a lot of dirt work, I couldn't do on that 5 what I'm doing on my 5,
Right.
I'd have a lot more money and time and efforts put into it. Does that make it worth it? I mean, maybe yes, maybe no, but currently, kind of like you just talked about with your adjacent 40, I'm really not in a position to make any moves right now with everything else I've got going on. But it's okay. I'm a firm believer, and if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And if that doesn't work out, something else will pop up. And I'll be honest with you, one of the hurdles we have, and this is something else as far as you promoting on the podcast for people that haven't bit the bullet yet. My wife and I had a very tough decision when we purchased this property, and in that it's 40 minutes from our home. Okay, so that obviously
you don't live in your property. I was misunderstood. Okay.
No.
So you're 40 minutes away. This is a long distance, almost. Well, kind of long distance.
I mean, it's you can imagine. Yeah, to go up there and it's a trip. It's a round trip. Like I'm going to go up there this afternoon. I got to just general maintenance and checks and things on whatever, but hot tubs but my point is why did we do that? Well, as we were looking around, we certainly could have bought something closer at probably a similar, rate, price per acre for what it was. However, and I know I mentioned this to you, Chris, in the past, and certainly in your class, but we have a very, very big draw just 3 miles down the road with an outdoor safari park. It's kind of like a safari tour, like, Animal Kingdom at Disney. It's one of the largest attractions in the state of Ohio. The Columbus Zoo owns it. And it's right down the road. So what's the name of it? What's the name of it? It's actually called the Wilds.
The Wilds, is it? Okay.
Yeah. It's a really big draw, and they do offer lodging on their property, and it's beautiful lodging, but it's also high-end lodging, so I'm not competing with them in any fashion. It's just you get tons and tons of people that are traveling in. Maybe they want to stay the night before, then go there and then head home. Some making a weekend out of it, some making a week, but that was when we were looking, it was like, okay, well, there's this.
You wanted to be close to the wilds, right?
We wanted to be close to the wilds, yeah. At least for starters, because we thought, that's going to help our draw as we're learning the ropes in the business. That's going to help us as opposed to us trying to be the draw,
Right.
Do I think I can be the draw? Yeah. I mean, I think I can be, you know what I mean? But I didn't want to start out that way. So that's helped, but it's a challenge. You can imagine
miles away. That's 3 miles away. The wilds.
Yep.
That's fantastic. It reminds me of what I have. This actually came to town. It's the Ford Amphitheater. There's a brand new amphitheater that's just one exit down from us. And that's been a real blessing because it's been I envision people going to see Styx or Ariel Speedwagon, which are coming next June.
Are they really?
And they're coming to the amphitheater. And awesome. And I envision them, hey, make a glamping trip out of it. Go to the concert and come here and stay in a tent. And that's kind of that's where we're gearing up for that. Even though there's other attractions in the area, but
same here.
Yeah, but boy, it's why try to create the wheel when we can hook up with these people and kind of ride their coattails. And
that was our thought, and that's why we bit that bullet. I mean, it's posed its challenges, no doubt. I mean, even if I get a call about, hey, we lost power or whatever, you know how those things are. And I currently still don't have a maintenance individual that I pay. I don't have a maintenance crew. I'm the maintenance crew. So I get a call. I got to run over there, or, if I'm not in town, I got to reach out to somebody that I've got a little network of people I can reach out to. But the trade-off was, and I'm going to say that 80% of our guests this year were going to the wilds. And the caveat is, well, there is also hiking and horseback riding and this and that in the local area. So these people come spend a weekend, spend a day at the wild, spend a day hiking, spend their evenings at our place, just chillaxing. So it's definitely been a positive in kickstarting us, no doubt about it. So, yeah. But
so you have the RV, you have 2 tents in operation through 2024.
Yeah.
And so you're looking at now entering 2025, for your busy season will be 4 units on RV and 3 tents.
Yep.
And on 5
and hopefully
acres.
a fifth. And hopefully
And
a fifth.
a fifth. Okay, if you have 5 units going, that's not too far from my schedule, honestly. You're moving a little quicker, I think, because you're going into your second season. My second season, I had 2 tents. My third season, that's when I pulled all the plugs and went 6 units.
Okay.
And I'm just rethinking my history of that started 6 years ago. That was kind of my trajectory. And you're going into year 2, going from literally 1 unit at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
First year,
1 to 3.
You will be at 4 units starting season 2, end up with 5 units.
That's the hopes. Yeah. I mean,
you're
definitely
doing really
4.
well. And how much of an impact on your income is this? Is this really a blessing to you and Melissa?
I mean, let's put it this way. Maybe different than some people. We didn't own the ground. We don't live on the ground. I didn't make a cash payment on the ground. So, it's much like any other business, I guess, in that there is and was an investment. And the return on that investment is looking bright, but it's going to take some time. So I wouldn't say that it's currently impacting us in a way that we're like sitting back going, yeah, thank God we did it. But I can foresee the long-term benefits of it. And that was my whole reason in doing it, honestly, was the long-term benefits, the passive income eventually.
You're still in development, and I'm still in development.
Exactly.
Too. 6 years in, I'm still developing and pushing toward that goal. It's always seems like my end results is always 1 or 2 years out, and here I am going to 6 years in. But it's a growing business. So I wouldn't, even if you're not, so you're saying you're not really cash flowing, that gets you all excited, but you're building as you go. That nest egg or that wealth is growing along with you. So
correct. Yeah, correct.
And even if you didn't make a dime off it the last couple of years, it's still right. It's still work you're building.
And that's part of my process, the process of wanting to get those. Definitely the 1 will be added, but hopefully the 2, because I feel like that 5. If I have that 5 units, I feel like now that I've got kinks worked out on Airbnb with the super host status, with the presence, with the, all that, I feel like with 5, I would start to see, a little bit more cash flow there. And I'll be honest though, I would allow that cash flow would be dumped right back into it, because I can do up to 7 on this property without crowding it, with still keeping it private, without making it a campground feel. I can still have what I'm selling with the privacy and the escape and the experience with 7 units. So for this particular property, that's my ultimate goal. And there's more infrastructure with that. I got to add in another road. I've got, I got to make a decision on bathroom facilities if I'm staying. That's my end goal, is that for this particular property. And then from there, hopefully rolling it into a second property. That's, I'm like you. I don't ever reach goals. I make new ones. I'm always chasing
right in the goal. Like it's always looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk. I know that the questions are probably burning. This is a really good interview. But let's talk about those utilities. So you have a piece of property, it doesn't have a house on it. So that's the advantage I have. So all of a sudden, my question is, well, okay, what about water? What about sewage? How are people going to the bathroom? How is electrical handled? Explain some of those details that you've wrestled through. Because one of the things I'll say, Tom, one of the most encouraging things about your story is that it seems like you're not only growing and paying for it as you go, you're also learning as you go. You mentioned Airbnb.
Oh, yeah.
You're learning how to do it as you open up these venues, and
Absolutely.
that's the way to do business, honestly. That's the power of this. But going back to those basics, I know people will have questions about the bathroom and water and all that jazz.
Sure. So it is a learning process, and I also there's also been business decisions, because that's what they truly are, along the way. I went into this thinking, okay, I've got the septic there, I've got the water there, I've got what I need. I'm going to put up a bath facility, right? A 2-room shower and bathroom facility with a laundry, and I had big plans for that. So a couple things happened. One, cash flow, little bit of that. I went, ooh, okay, maybe I can't swing this year one. Is that a problem? Is that going to stop me? No. I have water on the property, so providing water to these people is not the issue. We have water at every single one of our units, by the way.
How do you provide it? Like a cistern or
So what we're doing now is a cistern based, okay, where the camper runs right off the cistern. It's on location right there. But actually, we changed things with what we're doing at our tent locations. Is we're just providing, actually, I have one right here. We're providing a 4-gallon jug of potable water with an electric spout on it, which makes it really easy and handy.
If you're listening to this in your car, what you have is that one of those things you buy at Walmart. It's a big 5-gallon jug that you put in a water cooler thing, but you have actually a unique spigot that's on top of it.
Yep. It has an electric,
a little power button on it.
A little power button. You press it, the water comes out. You press it again, it shuts off. So we've provided one of them, and they're like a cheap deal you could buy on Amazon or Temu or whatever. My wife found them. It's rechargeable lithium battery, whatever. But so we're providing potable water for them for their drinking and their dishes and their, the coffee and all that that way. And then what I did is I put in outdoor shower and sink facilities at each tent. I built these raw, rugged structures, and there's just 50-gallon or 35-gallon tanks that I'm filling with the cistern, so that they can utilize that for in the summer, take a shower and wash their hands and dishes and things like that. So currently speaking, that's what I'm doing, because cash flow was an issue, but then also, and again, talk about learning as you go, I got turned down initially to put up the shower facility because this cistern wasn't placed right where the county wanted it. So they want that moved. Obviously, I have a little bit of an issue with distance, and there's just a few hurdles that I can't argue. Okay, yes, sir. But you made this point in your class, Chris. It's like, well, okay, well then what can I do short term? Well, hang non-potable water signs on your spigot for that, so that's legally noticed as non-potable, and then provide potable. Yeah, and that's exactly what I've done for now to get me by. And for a bathroom, like a toilet, I'm just putting regularly serviced porta-johns, and I've not had a single complaint about it. In fact, I've had people like praising the outdoor shower and available water source. They're like, this is so cool. It makes me feel like I'm camping still.
The hip campers, right? The hip campers, this is like an upgrade to that.
That's right. Yeah. They're like, this is great. We have a toilet. It's only, I have them positioned so that they don't have to walk any more than 100 feet. It's lit for at night. Like everything's good. Okay. So I'm over here saying, this is where the business decision comes in. So now, learning as you go, my wife and I got talking. We said, for this property, the seclusion of it, the privacy of it, for what it is, I don't know if I'll put in that bathroom facility, because I don't know if monetarily it'll even make sense in the end. Maybe my next property and for that layout. But the more I navigate this, the more I'm unsure as if I'll spend that money on it. I'm not sure. I might.
Cost benefit tension that you're wrestling with.
Exactly.
That is a business decision, and sometimes it's like, this isn't worth it. Even though, and it's funny that you mentioned about the permits and stuff, because I've run into the same thing where I wanted to run. Here's an example. I wanted to run electricity to my tent and have actually a socket that you plug things in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, the building department said that would be exhaustive with permits and things like that, and trenching, and it'd have to be regulated. And I was like, gosh, it's just a tent, for crying out loud, So,
I know.
Well, what can I do? Well, run an extension cord there. I'm like, oh, okay. I'll just run an extension cord. So
it's amazing.
extension cord goes out there instead of this trenched,
Yeah.
bougie thing.
So
And guess what? The result is exactly the same. Exactly the same. That's what as the expensive permitted trenched solution that I was dreaming up. I was dreaming up with unlimited funds, and then it's like extension cord.
That's right.
This is easy. So,
and that's what I did in the beginning, Chris. And I can speak on this. I'm glad you brought this up because I think it's another really good topic to cover for listeners. So I did the extension cord thing, obviously, to kick things off, right?
Mm-hmm.
In all my, running down to the township, what can I do? What can I do? And figuring all that out as I went. I ultimately did want power run to these units, and I wanted to run it in a sense to where it would give me the capabilities for phase 2, right? So I wanted to do it right, have it trenched right, have the right size, conduit and power or cable and all that stuff. So I did do that. I know my way around electrical. I have some buddies. Long story short, here's what I ended up doing. I pulled the permit to do the underground and get my power, my panels. I have 2 panels currently on the property now. Well, actually 3, the one existing and now 2 new. And I permitted that. Okay. Did it. That's great. But here's what I learned in doing all that. And that's why it's important to ask questions and listen. I was down to county building one day and he said, well, now wait a minute. He goes, are you actually fastening these panels / outlets to the decks, to the tents? I'm like, well, yeah, that's the plan. He said, well, then you need to permit everything. You need to permit the deck. You need to permit your footings. You need to permit, like, from ground up, every single unit has to get permitted. I'm like, for a tent? For like a deck and a tent? Really?
One of my story.
Yeah. And he goes, well, I mean, unless you stub it up like a camper outlet would be on its own stanchion, and then you just have a cord that plugs into your tent, right? I said,
let me guess, that's exactly what you did.
You bet. So I have full power in my tents. I have lights, I have outlets, I have all of it, everything. And when you're inside, you don't know any different. But on the outside, it just plugs into an outlet. Like if you were to pull a camper up to a spot and plug in, it's no different. And he said, if you do that, I don't want to know nothing.
Yep.
So that's how you get around that.
They don't want to know nothing.
They don't want to know.
Really,
and he said it.
They don't want to make their job more complicated.
Exactly. Yeah. And the permit for the underground was $100. The work is the work is the work. But I mean, getting the permit was easy and doing all that stuff. But that's something I wanted. I didn't want to, if I was doing some huge project with 100 units or something, but I knew this one's only going to be 5, 6,
you're not
7.
setting up a Jellystone here. You're setting up just a simple glamping operation that people can enjoy, and keeping it simple is sometimes the sometimes the way to go.
And I didn't want extension cords running everywhere.
Yeah, the same thing with sewage. It's good that you got those porta potties in there. My health department said no to porta potties. They said you need a septic tank to handle this. And I did put in the septic tank. That was $50,000, but it was something I put in, and I still have. But I tell you, it was funny because they really don't measure the actual poop and the pee. They measure the heads on beds, and that's how it is. So I still have porta potties. So you probably seen them, the portable Royal Thrones that Davis 10 puts out. Yeah. That's what I have with a little camp toilet. So I'm doing that. I'm still doing a kind of a porta potty solution. And the health department's fine with it. Why? Because I've got the septic tank on my property that can be utilized if people utilize it. I mean, it does sound weird. I mean, to the novice going, well, aren't you the health department and you're concerned about the sewage stuff? Yeah. Well, they're more concerned about the paper and what it says on paper. Yeah. And I've found that to be, I don't know. I hesitate to call it a problem because I've learned how to deal with the system. Deal with it, right? So yeah. Exactly. I don't want to call it a problem because I've learned how to deal with it. And I'm encouraging glampers to deal with that system so that you can make your glamping operation work and comply with the codes and the permits and things like that, and make it legit. So, but I mean, and they're going to tell you what it is, and like I'm
like my septic is good for me to put in that shower house. Like I was good with the septic, but same deal. They said you'll be good up to, I think it was 4 or 5 units, because again, they're measuring heads on beds. And he said, once you get beyond that, now the nice thing is I've already got the infrastructure for the septic and the leach field in place. So he said, all it will be then is just putting in another tank, and you can go with another 4 or 5 units, you know?
Okay.
So once I crest that 5 unit mark, if I had the shower house in, I'd have to then improve. So you talk about the expense of the shower house, but now is also the expense of the greater septic. So that's where you got to start making a decision, cost versus right. And on this particular property,
when you cross that bridge, here's another note: get engineering that you trust, because it turned out in my favor. But I ended up putting that $50,000 septic tank in, and then a couple years later, I'm doing my modification that you were aware of this last year and stuff. And it turns out that the original engineering was over engineered. I probably could have gotten away with maybe a $20,000-$30,000 septic tank. I did. I just spent all that money. But you know what? I know, but I didn't discover that until I was on my second property, putting in that septic tank and learning and working with the health department through another engineer over there. And that engineer said we could make it the same size as yours. A long story short, I was over engineered, which made my modification fit like a glove.
I was going to say probably made it easier. Yeah.
Yes, I could put in the other 4 units on my property. I don't have to upgrade my septic, and I can run my house into that septic.
So you were pre-planning, Chris. You were way ahead.
I know. I didn't know how brilliant I was. It all worked out, and it's but it's a game. We're learning the game we're learning the game that developers know. And this is the people who are building, townhomes and 3-story buildings and things like that. They know this is the game to play, and then they do it. And that's what glamping operators should do. It sounds like you're doing it in Ohio. So
well, I am, man. It's there's definitely learning curves, but I mean, there's with anything, and it's been fun overall. I mean, we enjoy it. There's been a couple times when it hasn't been joyful, right? I mean, something breaks, you got to go up, but that goes with anything. Yeah, that's business. I mean,
and you've gotten consistent 5-star reviews. Do you have a 4-star review yet?
Yeah, we did. And it was, I even tried to, this was silly. And I even tried to bring it up on to Airbnb, but anyway, we had this one younger girl and her husband or boyfriend say that everything was just too far. Now, this is an individual that we actually followed out, not on purpose, but when they were leaving the first night there, we followed them out and we were heading out of town. My wife and I were going home. Well, this individual went 20 miles out of her way to go to, a store. Well, if she had just read the book, she'd know there's a store 4 miles down the road and that there's this and that. So the argument there was, it's promoted on our Airbnb description where and how far things are. It's written in our book. It's black and white. It's all there. She chose not to read it, went out of her way and thought, oh my gosh, I'm 20 miles out in the country.
Far out of the way. 4-star.
No, you're not. No, you're not. So then we got a 4-star because of course everything else she loved. And I'm like, oh boy, that's kind of, BS. But it comes with those.
Well, my point is that you're really crushing the reviews. Maybe we'll do another interview on how to meet expectations, because you and Melissa are doing a great job as far as really, and that it does boil down to reviews. If you go to an Airbnb that's got 4.5-star reviews, you don't book it. If you see 5-star or 4.9-star, then you book it. So that's something that you and Melissa are doing a great job at. So
well, thank you. And I guess that's a topic you could talk for a while on, because it's a lot of just little things. A lot of it's little things. It really is, but
it's in the details.
It is in the details. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Let's bring this in for a landing. How about a reflective moment that you have for the glamping guy audience? Give me some wisdom, Tom.
From the class or from the business itself?
Well, just what's Tom's words of wisdom to the glamping inspiring glamper who's listening to the Glamping Guy podcast?
It's much like anything else I do, you know, in the hunting and outdoor space. I'm also an educator and, you know, in that. And I'm going to tell you, if this is something you're wanting to get into, you need to educate yourself in all facets, from the business to the legal to the, you know, to the property. You cannot feed yourself enough information when it comes time for you to actually bite the bullet. But having said that, my second piece of advice that goes along with that is, don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. Don't sit there and wonder and research. And there's a certain level of all that you need to do. But when you're ready, if you're ready, and I guess like anything else, right? People talk about having a child. Are you ever ready? If you're financially able to do it and make a little leap, just like starting any business, do it. Don't wait and wonder, because you heard Chris say earlier, like you said, you're like, man, things change all the time. If you just keep researching and wanting to learn more, you're never going to be ready. You need to just do it, make mistakes, learn along the way, be willing to accept those mistakes, progress with it. Evolution of it is no different than any other business. So don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. Do as much research as you need to start your business, wherever it may be. Take classes like Chris's, and wherever else you can gain knowledge. Watch YouTube videos. I found you on YouTube, Chris, originally because I was watching YouTube videos to just get a feel for this. But don't be afraid of it. I mean, it's a fun business. It's a great business. It's a lucrative business. Obviously, Chris, you can speak better on that than me. I'm still working to that point. But here's the most important thing about this: because it's real estate investment, because it's it's a long-term benefit for you and your family, right? Is you are investing in something that, I mean, you own a piece of dirt and you've improved that dirt. You can't lose. You can't lose.
Right.
Work smart, but do something. Don't sit on the couch.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. Where can people find you, both your hunting business as well as your Airbnb business?
Yeah, appreciate it. Filmthehunt.com. That's the education business that we have there. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on all social media platforms. Television show wise, it's become one. We air on Sportsman Channel. But our glamping facility, the whole reason we're here today, it is called the Wild Pines of Ohio. And you can find us at thewildpinesofohio.com. That's our website for that. We are on all social media as well. A lot of that is condensed down to just the Wild Pines on social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever. So yeah, you can find us, the Wild Pines of Ohio, and look us up. We'd appreciate some feedback. Reach out to us if you have questions. And if you're ever in the Ohio area, please come stay with us.
And I'll have links below for the podcast. So. Well, thank you, Tom. This has been a wonderful interview. You really are serving as an example to the glamping community. So thanks for being on the Glamping Guy podcast.
Appreciate you, Chris. Back at you, man.
Isn't Tom's story an excellent example of how a love for outdoors can translate into a successful business? I want to go visit Wild Pines of Ohio. It's such a standout glamping destination already. I especially like Tom's ability to learn, adapt, and grow. It's been, I think, a key to his success. If you're considering starting your own glamping operation, Tom's journey is proof that it's possible to make your dream a reality. You don't have to start big. You can start small and just grow from there, but at least start. Take his advice about analysis paralysis seriously. I'll have some information coming up soon. This is releasing at the end of the calendar year in 2024, but early 2025 I'll be having that class that he joined and got that burr in his saddle to go ahead and develop his glamping operation. So what you can do right now is go to glampingguy.com and get registered for my newsletter, get subscribed so we can keep that communication open. And the next time I open up my class, I'll be sure you get an invitation. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Glamping Guy podcast, and share it with someone who loves the outdoors. It'll lighten up my day. Until next time, happy glamping.